But really, the essence of the butterfly effect is the fact that you can make one simple change, and it changes the whole course and direction of your life. I like to go deep, and there's one thing that I'm going to tell you that's going to expand your business, and I call it doing your homework. See, people do business with people who they like, who are like them. You'll buy a product from a friend of yours, even if it costs a couple dollars more than go to a local discount place. Now, didn't you just prove that? Because everybody you know just bought that unit, and so did all your friends. So they just demonstrated what happens when you put the good stuff out there. Only the people that have high expectations, high beliefs, and high goals can be in this room right now. But you know people like that. When you're getting started with transformation, it's critical for entrepreneurs to understand why. See, what happens when you transform things is, one, is productivity increases. Second, you get an increase in retention and you attract better people. And third, your income goes up. That's what happens when you start to implement transformational programs into your company. You have to bring people into your culture. If you improve yourself 1% a day, in 365 days, you are 365% better. Now, who in this room would not give me every single dollar that they have if I can guarantee you a 365% return on your investment? Every one of you would. And yet you still have the ability to do it yourselves. And all you have to do is a little bit each day. You have to eat the elephant one bite at a time. So the more that you're staying in touch with your clients, the more that you're caring for them after the initial sale, the more that you stay in touch and let them know information that's going to help them in the future, the more they're going to connect with you, and then they start to tell their friends. And that's how it starts. I sent one video email, and the guy called me back in 2 seconds and said, that was amazing. Why? Because nobody else is doing it. You've got to use differentiation. What is different about you than someone else? I might call up Dorian and say, Dorian, how's your son doing? I hear he's playing baseball, and now I can talk to him. So what kind of information are you collecting about your clients? Because this is really important stuff. It's the little things that make the big difference, but you've got to do it over and over and over and over again. It's repetition is the mother of skill. Because the more you tell the story, then it more makes it personal. It made it personal to you, and that's why you called all your friends. And I could totally see you saying no. But what engaged her? And what engaged her was the person's personality who went to the door. They were just nice. Now, there's 4 steps to becoming a transformational leader. Very simply, the first step is you've got to create an inspiring vision. If you are boring, if you don't have a personality, you better get one. You better fake it till you make it, act as if. Bring some energy, because when you bring energy, it's going to change the whole paradigm. Next, motivate people to buy and deliver your vision. Because if you don't motivate them and show them what I call the WIIFM, it's the best radio station in town, 97.3. What's in it for me? That's what they're always asking. Why should I care? What's in it for me? So you've got to show them how they're going to benefit. Benefits, benefits, benefits. Next is you've got to manage delivery of your vision. Because you've already played the phone game. That's why I love video. Because if you think about it, what do millennials like to do? Do they like to text? Do they like to write long letters or email? Or do they like to watch videos? So what do you think you're going to have a better chance of connecting at? But you also have to have ways to connect with people who have gray hair like myself and other people, because we got to communicate across generations. So you're going to have to manage your communication. We'll talk about that in a minute. Build ever stronger based trust relationships with people. And the best way you do that is by delivering. You've got to deliver. See, because we have a disconnect sometimes when we don't focus on the solutions. It's easy to focus on the problems. My children can pick out any problems, as I'm sure most of yours can also. But focusing on the solutions, that's what you get paid for. You get paid for fixing things, for showing people how to be successful. But what it takes is a commitment. And what a commitment is doing the thing you said you would do when the period that it makes you feel really good in has left you. Training is constant. You never stop learning. You never stop growing. When you stop learning and growing, you leave the planet. Think about it. You hear these people retire. 2 days later, they're gone. You don't need to retire. What are you retiring to? Right? You're helping people's lives. Is it so hard? You're not throwing bricks, right? You're running successful businesses. But you've got to make that commitment, even when it doesn't feel good. And that's why people say, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. People say to me, oh, you're lucky all the time. You know what my daughter says? My daughter says, you don't know the backstory. You don't see all the hours Dad puts in. That's the difference. If you're gonna be successful, you gotta put in the hours. I know you guys put in tons of hours. You can't operate a business with all those people and not put in hours. Are they up to the challenge? Do you have the right people? Because if you don't have the right people, either you gotta train them up, you gotta find out, you gotta coach them up, and if you need coaching, you gotta get some coaching too, because you can't be on an island by yourself. Find out what people like to do, because you may find that they have a skill that's gonna benefit your business and you never ask them about it. Now, the symbolic focus is really important. And every single sports team I've worked with, every single major organization I've worked with has a symbolic focus. In fact, you have a symbolic focus also. We just watched The Lifesavers. That's a symbolic focus. So a symbolic focus could be a newsletter, it could be a trophy, something that people can focus on. Gamifying things, because people love to play games. So if you could make it fun and make it a game, all of a sudden you're gonna see production increase, you're gonna see sales increase. We see it happen all the time. But the reason I'm telling you is I was just Yoda along the way. John had to do the things himself. See, in 2017, Hurricane Irma came through and took out St. Martin. And this was John's house before and after. John took his wife, Wendy, his kids in the basement, and they just prayed they would come out alive. The next day he called me and he said, "What am I gonna do?" And I said, "Well, you kind of know what to do already, don't you? The Heineken Regatta is coming up in 2 weeks, and there's no food, water on the island, and you've got to do something." So what did he do? The first thing he did, he had to assess the situation, because that's what you have to do with your businesses. So he assessed the situation. The second thing that he did was he started to make a plan. But he didn't just have one plan, he had a backup plan and a backup plan, because if you just have one plan and that plan fails, where do you go from there? So he had redundant systems set up. Then he communicated his vision to every single person on the island, to everybody on the island. And then he got people involved. He got his good friend John involved, who owns all the Domino's pizza places, and he gave him a generator that he had in the house so he can get them up and working so they could feed everybody. But the symbolic focus they had was that Heineken Regatta. And he knew if he got everybody focused on that symbol, everybody on the island, they would start to forget a little bit about the devastation that happened. And sure enough, John Leone pulled it off. And all he did was put those simple steps into action. He knew what he had to do. When he called me up, he said, "What do I do?" I said, "You know what you got to do." Because that's what a coach does. I don't do the heavy lifting for you. I'm gonna show you what you gotta do, and you gotta go out there and make it happen, just like I had to make it happen. I've got coaches, they say, "Do this," and I just do it, because they're successful too. It's called OPE, other people's experiences. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, it's been invented. It's a pretty good thing. All you gotta do is improve it a little bit. Stick with what you do best and expand on that. See, but what I didn't understand at that point, why you are not retaining people, is this reason. Employees don't quit the job, they quit the boss. Simple as that. Solutions-oriented leadership and transformational leadership is not about developing followers, it's about developing other leaders. I was reading a study that 75% of CEOs say the biggest challenge in this country is that we don't have leaders that are trained to be leaders. Mid-level management, we don't have people to replace them with because they don't have the skill sets. What'd you ever get for being right? I'm right all the time. I think I am. At least my kids think that I think I am. I haven't gotten anything. So if you got something, let me in on this, because I want to get something too. Because the way you start your day determines your whole day. The way you think determines how your outcome's going to be. So you got to start focusing on your brain, on how you're thinking. I'm sitting at the red light, and all of a sudden, boom! I'm feeling my neck going like this, all over the place. This woman just was not paying attention and slammed right into me, who did not get back to me. But I wanted to do my homework because I wanted to find out, what do you guys need? What's important? And I talked to Lisa first, and we talked for a long time. You guys all know about circuits, right, with ADT. So it's the energy circuit. So by bringing this energy, this is mapping the energy. Pretty big guy, right? So Brandon, I want you to hold your arm out here. And I'm going to just push it down. I want you to fight me as much as you can. Oh my gosh, it's a pretty strong guy. Okay, so put your arm down, relax a second. Brandon, here's the deal. I want you to visualize this. You guys are growing pretty big, right? You're doing pretty good though. So. Okay, you're up here, no big deal. Here's the deal though, Brandon. 50 of your best people just left, and the biggest problem is You've got to go back to what you did day one. Remember that? Remember when you're knocking on doors? I want you to hold your arm out here like this. Hold it strong. It's just like that day, right? See? Now, you see, it just went down, okay? Because all I have to do is put a suggestion in his brain. Because you know what I said to him? The question I asked of him, what would you say was the biggest challenge to your success? And he said in the early days, I was the biggest block to my own success. Correct? Right. And that's self-awareness. You feeling this? You're leaders. Your team goes where you go. It's about disruption. You've got to disrupt some of your employees. If you want to be nice and want everybody to like you and love you, you're not going to make money. Sometimes you got to disrupt it because it's the best thing to happen. You proved to me that you can do this. I developed another leader. Now I'm out. My job is done. What's your job to do that? Your ability to confront is going to be directly proportionate to your ability to be successful. Jeremy's shaking his head. You have got to have a high level confront, which means you got to ask the tough questions. Every team, every player, every great athlete has a coach. And what you helped us do were two things. You helped us with communication and you helped us with recognition. Because everybody wants love, appreciation, and respect. Like the food they eat, the air they breathe, and the water they drink. He said, you helped us to communicate more effectively. Their symbolic focus was a newsletter. These people threw a newsletter party. I love what I do because you can't sell what you don't own. So you've got to know that you're helping people. Each and every one of you has the ability to do that. You have the ability to give the vision to your teams. You have the ability to create a symbolic focus. You've already got symbolic focus. You've already got awards. You've got people's lives in the balance. But it's going to be your vision and your motivation that's going to get the job done. You all have a higher purpose here. You're in the business of saving people's lives. You've got a family that you saved their house. The world would be a lot different for them today if you were not here. So I thank you, I know they thank you, and I want to thank you all for doing what you do and for protecting my house also. Have a great, great week. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Outstanding job, brother. Well done.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. One more time, Dr. Rick Goodman, guys. Dude, he worked. He's walking off sweating. Doc, those shorts are pretty sick. 4X. Can I have them? No shot, huh? 100 grand. See? Always making money.
The single biggest way to impact an organization is to focus on transformational leadership. There's almost no limit to what you can accomplish. The first, it creates an environment, an opportunity to motivate people. It helps you to inspire employees. See, your job is to be that vision. Your job is to give direction and give people the tools that they need in order to be successful. Anybody like change? Right? Some of you like change. Most people, though, if they could do the same exact thing, the same way, pay their bills, they probably wouldn't change at all because change is uncomfortable. So things are changing, things are evolving, and you've got to change and evolve with them. See, one of the things about transformational leadership, when you're the visionary, is it creates family. When the family stays together and they're together, the family's much stronger and more powerful. When the family breaks apart, it becomes weaker. And it's no different than your job, your relationships with your family, your friends, and your kids. The more you're connected, the more powerful that relationship is. Tokyo, Hong Kong, Bangkok, Cambodia, Singapore, and now I get to be with the most happy people I've ever seen on the planet. Absolutely. You will never fire anyone in your life. People fire themselves. When you put yourself out there for your businesses, you attract better people. So my question, my challenge to you is, what are you doing to transform your company? What are you doing to transform your life? What are you doing to make things a little bit different and a little bit better for the people that you work with?
People do business with people who they like or like them. You will buy a product from a friend of yours, even if it costs you a couple dollars more than going to a local discount place, won't you? Does anybody have a mom and a grandma that say bad things happen in threes? Anybody ever hear that? And have you ever woken up in the morning and said, it's going to be one of those days? I just know it. It's going to be one of those days. And all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they go bad, and all of a sudden you go to your friend and say, look, I knew I was right. I knew it was going to be one of those days. Here's my question. What'd you ever get for being right? Or this is going to happen, it doesn't happen. How many times have you walked in the office and we're ready for a fight? Or maybe it's with your spouse, significant other, you're ready for the battle. And in your brain, you're up all night, you're going, he's going to say this, and she's going to say this, I'm going to say this. And you went through that whole thing, and it didn't happen. Anybody been there before? Like me? Right? And you stressed out over nothing because you didn't let your mind get away with you. So what you got to do is take control of your mind. And the only way you can do that is by focusing on your goals and objectives. Focusing on the things you want to accomplish and not listening to the people that tell you you can't. When my wife was sick, she said to me, you know what you need to do? You need to spend more time with Jamie because my son would be in the locker rooms with athletes and have all this fun stuff doing. And she said, you know, you need to take her on trips. So I decided to take my daughter on a trip. We were going to go on a 2-week trip, but I have a problem. I've got OTT, over the top. That means everything starts out small and it gets really big. So I may take 1 week, and next thing you know, I'm here for 3 weeks in Asia. That's how it goes. That's how we roll in the Goodman house. Well, I'm OTT, so the week trip started after 2 weeks, and then it became 24 days. We were going to start out in St. Louis to Chicago, London, Paris, Rome, Florence, San Gimignano, Chianti, Siena, Madrid, Israel, and back. Before we got on the plane, I was writing a new book. It was called A Dad's Guide to Traveling with a Teenage Daughter, Generation Y. Like, why would you do it? That's crazy. She was 16 years old, but I had this thought in my head. I was ready. I was leaving my National Speakers Association conference in Indianapolis. I was going to go to St. Louis 24 hours before, get her ready. She'd never been to Europe, so I wanted everybody to be comfortable. I wanted her mom to be comfortable with her going for this length of time. I got in the cab, and my phone rang, right in front of the Marriott Hotel. I picked up the phone, and all I heard was, Dad, no offense. Anybody ever got a no offense line? I was already offended. She said, I want to hang with my friends. I gave the cab driver $5. I walked back to the Marriott Hotel. I booked my hotel again, changed my plane flight. I hadn't even left. She didn't know what was coming. I called the mother up. I said, she's not going to need her computer. I got mine. And then we got to the airport, and I looked at my phone and said, my phone's not getting a good signal. Can I see your phone a second? She gave me her phone. I said, you got a better signal. Thanks. I said, now you got to talk to me for a month. No phone, no computer. This was what she called the double whammy. Well, we started out, and we would go traveling different places. So we're going to both write, we're going to both journal, see what we got. I was writing this book. In the beginning of the book, she said it's going to be survival of the fittest, last man standing kind of thing. I don't know who'll survive. I'm going to be going with my dad. He's a huge New Yorker. She put it all in capital letters. She said, he sounds like he's always yelling, but he's really talking. She said, he sounds like he'll yo a waiter across the restaurant. You know, we're from New York. We yo people. Yo! We get him. A little rude, but it works. It's very effective. Well, every night we were out till 1:30 in the morning. And I would kid around with my daughter and say, okay, tonight we're going to get back before 1:30. And she would invite perfect strangers out to dinner. She'd meet people and say, hey, you want to go out to dinner with us? And every night we were out with strangers. Well, Florence, Italy, I walked into the bedroom and I went to go pick up my bag, and all of a sudden, pop, I couldn't stand up. Well, I said, you know, we got reservations at this restaurant. We walked over to this restaurant, and all they had was little bar stools. I said, Jim, I can't sit on that bar stool. I said, let's go to this restaurant, Giostra. I've been there a bunch of times. It's supposedly owned by a prince, you know, this famous prince. I don't know, he just dresses up like one. Well, I walked in, I sat down, and 2 seconds later, this woman walked over to me. She's about 75 years old, and she pulled her skirt up and put her leg on a table and said, Doc, look at my knee. This was the one patient that you never wanted to see in your office. You would duck when she came in. These people behind us started laughing. They were crying. They couldn't believe it. Then she looked at my daughter and she said, Doc, is this your girlfriend? My daughter was like, that's gross. That's my father. These people roaring behind him. She goes and invites him out to dinner. These were the guy was the biggest leather dealer in Florence, and now his wife Hannah, a huge designer. We're walking down the streets of Florence, Italy now at 2:30 in the morning. My daughter grabbed my hand and said, "Dad, you make a great team." I knew I hit a grand slam home run, knocked it out of the park. Our relationship would never be the same. When I got back and I looked at what she wrote, it was absolutely 1,000 times better than what I wrote. She's funny and she has no filter, less than me. And when a 16-year-old tells it like it is, she tells it like it is. Her book went to number 4 on Amazon. We ended up doing TV and radio all over the country. And on Father's Day, on the Today Show, I sat there on the couch promoting my daughter's book. And they said, "You must feel pretty proud." I said, "I'm on the Today Show with my daughter promoting her book. It doesn't get any better." And I got her book here today, Jamie's Journey, Travels with My Dad, and she gives advice to other children. So if you've got children, 16-year-olds, and how many of you have, teenagers here? Anybody have teenagers? How many of you turned stupid? Anybody? You're going to make a comeback, I promise. And she gives advice to other kids, like, hang in there. Your parents may be annoying, but you're going to learn something. And we learn those big lessons. She just hasn't learned how to figure out on the iPhone the world clock. So she tends to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm overseas, thinking it's a regular time. She called me in Auckland, New Zealand, 3:30. I picked up the phone, "Jamie, what's going on?" And I said, "It's 3:30 in the morning." And I said, "I can't talk to you." I hung up, and then I felt like a bad dad. I said, "You know what, 20 years from now, she's going to tell her kids, I want to talk to my dad," and he hung up on me. So I felt guilty, of course, because that's what we do in New York. We feel guilty. So I picked up the phone, and I said, "All right, Jamie, what's up?" And she said, "I just want to talk about life." Oh, my God, are you kidding me? 3:30 in the morning. If you could help me with this one, you will get a prize. I called my mother up the other day. I said, "Mom, I've got tickets to Matilda on Broadway. What are you doing on Friday?" She said, "I'm not doing anything." I said, "I'm going to come pick you up. I'm going to take you to Matilda on Broadway. We're going to go out to dinner." And my mother said to me, "You know what? I've already seen Matilda on Broadway. I think I'm just going to stay home." I couldn't get a date with my own mother. It's insane. But you got to learn how to communicate across everybody. And communicate is not what I say, it's how you hear it. You got to make an effort. I know I probably mangled the good afternoon in Tagalog, but you know what? If you make the effort, people appreciate it. And that's the key. Always make the effort. Make the effort to learn about other people, other cultures, wherever you travel. I like to say I'm a citizen of the world. Because I want to reach out, I want to know everything about you. Because it's all about them, as my friend Bruce Turkell says. It's not about you. And if you think about it, who's the most important person to anybody in this world? Themselves. You all listen to the radio station today, 97.3 FM, right here in the Philippines, WIIFM. What's in it for me? That's what your people want to know. They want to know what's in it for me. What do I get out of this? So you've got to understand and communicate and show them how they're going to benefit by following this, by changing, by growing, because if they don't see it, they probably won't do it. Doug Weber has the ability to do one thing. He confronts. Your ability to confront is going to be directly proportional to your ability to be successful in life. You have to have a high level of confront, which means you've got to be willing to ask the tough questions. You've got to be willing to challenge people when they're not doing or being the best they can be. And if they feel that you're coming from here, that you're coming from the heart, they will buy into you. And if they think you're just trying to manipulate them or do something like that or get over it, they're not going to follow you. You can tell I love what I do because I want each and every one of you to be successful. Because if I lift you up, I get lifted up also. But I only do it by helping others. And that's the only way you do it. And sometimes when you see people not being all they can be, you have to confront them. And if you don't confront them, you're doing a disservice. If your children weren't doing their homework and you didn't confront them about poor grades and what the outcome could be of that in their careers and in their lives, you're not confronted. Sometimes we got to confront our team. So I've created a method of doing it. It's called the morning huddle. And Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, our team in Argentina has a morning huddle. 15 minutes. It's not a meeting. And all it is it's for the leaders to say, this is what I'm going to be working on this week. What are you guys going to be doing? Wednesday, hey, here's what I got done. What you got done, do you need any help? Do you need any support? How can I assist you? And Friday, what did we get done and what are we focused on for next week? 15 minutes, because people don't like meetings. You know why they don't like meetings? It's real simple. You get nothing accomplished. How many of you have read Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? How many of you read that? Raise your hands. Okay, so maybe 12%. Let me give you a clue about what a book is. A book someone took 20, 30, 40 years success. They put it all into a book. All you have to do is read the book, do what they do, you get the same results. So simple. Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. Know what you want your outcome to be and then work your way backwards. And if you do that, you'll be successful. Most of us start and have no clue where we're going. Most of you put more planning into a party that you're going to have at Christmas time than you do into your whole lives. You got to have enough food, you got to have enough booze, you got to have all these things, you got to have the karaoke going, right? If you don't have all those things, it's a fail. But what do you want to be 5 years from now? What do you want to be doing? How much money do you want to make? How much money do you want to make that's going to make you feel comfortable for the next 10, 20, 30 years? I was with my SEO guy who didn't even have a bank account until about 3 weeks ago. And I took him to Hong Kong, and then we went to Cambodia to help build a school in Cambodia. And I said to him, you know what? You can't help anybody if you don't make any money, because then you have no money to help anybody. You can't even help yourself. But when you really put it out there, then you can really help others. Then think about what you could do for this school, what you could do for these children. You could do amazing things, and you have the ability. I will show you where to fish, but you got to throw that line in. And he started throwing that line in, and his life started changing within 2 weeks. Totally changed his paradigm. He's willing to live as lowly as you could, as simple as possible, and wanting to help. And you can't help anybody if you're not helping you. Because it all starts with you. You're the only person that you can change. You can't change other people. This world is made up of 50% of the people divorced because they thought they could change somebody else. It doesn't work. It starts right here. It starts with you growing, you building, you getting better. Now, I spoke to my employee, Juan Oliveira, and he called me up. He's like, well, you know, the team doesn't want to do the morning huddle anymore. Why, Juan? Well, because it's going like an hour. I go, Juan, it's a huddle. It's not a hostage situation. I said, so here's what's going to happen. We're now going to shift the huddle over a cup of coffee. So they love drinking coffee in Buenos Aires, so you get together in the morning, you get a cup of coffee, you all sit around. When that cup of coffee's done, the huddle's done. You're not going to spend an hour drinking a cup of coffee, and if you do, we're booting you out. Made it much easier. The group could buy in. So see how you can shift things. See how you can adapt. Be creative. Think outside the box. Because if you start thinking outside the box, you can create amazing things, amazing wealth, and amazing changes in people. Check back is your key to delegation success. I'm going to give you the #1 action step that if you do this, you'll be successful. Because check back is not check up. You could be the #1 best employee on the planet. And if I am standing behind you, watching you do your job, how many mistakes are you going to make? Tons of mistakes, right? Someone stand behind your back. Do you know right now you guys are hanging out with me and you're standing behind people's backs at work? That people are afraid they're going to make mistakes? They're afraid they're going to mess up? And they got you over there? So check back is simple. I will give somebody a task to do, and then I will ask them when I can check back. See, I know one thing about people. People like to make excuses, they like to blame, etc. They don't want to get punished and sent to their room. It's so simple. When you were a kid, and your parents said, go up and clean up your room, and they went up an hour later and the room wasn't cleaned up. Or you have children, what's the first thing you ask that child? Some of you will say, what were you doing? And I would just look at you and say, picking my nose, Dad. That's what I was doing. So you can't go anywhere. Everybody does things for one reason. Why? It's the why. Why should I do this? Why do I do this? So I want to give them the why. I never, because, oh wait, it's a dead end. What were you doing? They're going to give you the answer. You can't go anywhere. So I want to give them the why. So instead of saying, I need you to go do this for me, get it done, and I come back 2 or 3 hours later, I said, you get that done? Oh man, listen, Debbie was driving me crazy, and Liz all together, and this. You have all been in the zone or the flow. You know the zone or the flow? When you're banging out work, you're getting all this stuff done, and somebody interrupts you, and you can't get back to that mental spot again? Or you see somebody you've known forever, and you can't remember their name. And then you're in the shower that night, and you go, oh my God, that was Joe, my childhood friend. See, your brain is like a record album. When there's a little scratch in a record, it jumps over and skips, and you can't remember that stuff. So when your people in the zone of the flow and they're banging out work for you, you want to get out of the way. Now the key to check back is you must check back. Because each and every one of you has had this happen. Someone said, I need to drop everything you're working on. I need you to get this done. You dropped everything you're working on. You got it done, and they didn't use it for a week, a month, or ever. Anybody been there? And you know what you said to yourself, because you were always talking to yourself. You said, next time they ask me to do it, I'm not doing it. So the key to check back is you must check back. Now, if someone says to me, well, I can get it done in 4 hours, I'm going to change my communication. And I'm going to simply go and say, I really need your help. I'd really appreciate it. If you can get this done for me, that would be excellent. I'd really appreciate that. Do you think you can get that done? And I'm going to come over and I'm going to walk over and I'm say, you know what, we met at the luncheon here and it was a great time and I really need your help. Could you do something for me? Sure. Thanks. I got a commitment. And I use the word commitment, see, because I know something about him. I know that Mark's word is his bond. And I know Mark's word is his name. And he's never going to mess that up. And when you get a commitment from Mark, he is going to go to the wall and make it happen. And I know each and every one of you will do the same thing. But it's the way you communicate with Mark. If I tell Mark, he's going to, they say, hey, Rick, come on, back off. I got stuff to do. You're not my mother, you're not my father. You're not going to tell me what to do. Because people want 3 things. Remember, they want love, appreciation, respect. Like the food they eat, the air they breathe, the water they drink. You give them those 3 things, you're going to have them there every single time. So you want to use check back. Well, this is my company, Neutrona. And I started working with this company, and Neutrona, they are called Neutrona because we own all the undersea cable that brings the internet to Latin America. And they're based in Buenos Aires and Miami, and we then rent that. We're like Switzerland, that's why we're called Neutrona. We're neutral to AT&T and Singtel and Telefonica and Tata and Digicel and every cell company out there on the planet. And I decided I wanted to have this transformation. And they called me, I did a program for them, and they said, Rick, we want you to come along with us. We want you to be our executive coach. And I said, well, we've got to transform the way things are working. And the first people we had to start with were the owners of the company. And they made a commitment to change themselves. And then the second commitment was I was going to work with the management team. And once I worked with the management team, and we developed the management team, the goal of the management team is to develop the middle managers. And I wanted the middle managers to look at the top managers and say, hey, if he can do it, or she can do it, I can definitely do it. I love that. Because that's the challenge, because they can. Because it's all there, it's modeling. And then once the middle managers got going, then we started working with the lower levels of the company. And what we did was we created a whole group of managers and leaders. See, but what it took was something of symbolic focus. And what symbolic focus is something that you can use to create a sense of family, something you can use to bring people together. So I said to them, we need a newsletter. And Luciano looked at me and said, you're crazy. You're nuts. We don't need a newsletter. I said, you need to have a newsletter. This is what we have to do. We have to put together a newsletter. Rick, I don't have time, and we got to fix these people. My team stinks. We got to do all these things and forget it. I said, we need a newsletter. I said, one day, someone is going to be hanging that newsletter on the refrigerator. It's going to be a refrigerator score. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, have you ever gone bowling and you get a good bowling game, or your kids make a piece of art, or they score really high grade on a test? What do? You put it on the refrigerator so everybody can see. That's a refrigerator score. That's what I call it. I said, one day, someone will be hanging it on the refrigerator. Well, sure enough, the first edition of the Neutrona Correction is this right here. 1 page, 2 sides, heavy material. Didn't really like it too much. Then we came up on the 3rd edition. The 3rd edition got a little bit better. And it was 4 pages, 2 sides. I seemed to always pop into the Neutrona Connection. Maybe because it was my job in my 305 and Yankee shirt. And then they came out with the 4th edition of the Neutrona Connection. And again, another 4-page, but here, we were winning awards in Latin America, top awards every single year. And I talked about the excellent workplace, and you know what was in every single one of these newsletters? Pictures of our team, pictures of the people that work with us. How many of you have been on TV before? And I'm not talking about standing behind the camera going like this, hey, I'm here, like when you're on it. Or if you've been in a newspaper before, what do? You show to your friends, you're all proud of it, right? It's a sense of pride, it's a sense of family. I said, they're going to take this home to their families. They're going to show their families. Then the next one came out, and it was the July 2017 edition. And then it became 6 pages. And that became people running in marathons and races and teams and people at lunch. And we built a brand new office in Miami at the Cambridge Innovation Center. And then I got a phone call and a picture came out. And what they did was they started to do a team assessment. I said, do this team assessment and manage individual people because everybody's different. See, how many of you believe in the golden rule? Do unto others as others would do unto you. Raise your hands if you believe in this rule. This is a stupid rule. Would you treat all your children the same exact way? Some need a little push, some get out of my way and let me do my job. I've got Goodman's rule. Do unto others as they need to be done unto. Everybody's different. I got to give them what they need, not what I think they need. So we did the assessments. Because if you're not aware of what you're not good at, you're in a big problem right from the beginning. But if you have some self-awareness and you know what you need to work on, and you're okay with improving yourself, which you should be, and you're not offended, you're going to grow. Because if you do what you like to do, you'll be very successful doing it. This is my team in Argentina. They threw a party when they came out with the first newsletter. They had a party. I could see that happening here in the Philippines. You guys like to celebrate. Some of you will never work with professional athletes like I have. But the thing that I'm going to tell you right now is that doesn't make your job any less important. Because your jobs are all important. You know how I know? I have a letter to prove this. A number of years ago, in fact, it was in 1997, I was the keynote speaker for the Future Business Leaders of America Conference. 2,000 college students, highest ending college students, high school students are all at this conference. And a kid came up to me and he said, I don't know why I'm here. He said, my parents made me come here, my teachers made me come here. Sometimes I think about just giving it up. But when a 16-year-old says that to you, you're not quite sure what to say. I looked around for teachers, counselors, I couldn't find anybody. I said, do me a favor, sit right there in the front row, do not move. He sat there in the front row and he listened. I talked about goals. And if you set your goals and you focus on them, you'll attain everything you want. It may not take 30 days, but within 90 days, you're going to start to see changes. And at the end, I looked down and he was gone. 6 months later, I got this letter from Winterset, Iowa. I'd never been there in my life. And it was dated February 17th, 1998. I carry this letter every time I speak. It reminds me why I do what I do. And it basically said, Dr. Goodman, my name is Raphael, and I'm senior at Winterset High School. This past November, I attended an FBLA conference. At the conference, you gave a presentation that made me realize what I want in life and how long it would take for my new goals in life to actually set in. I'm very happy to say I've set new goals. I firmly believe my GPA up and so are my grades. The period you said it would take has already come and gone, but I believe it will never be gone. Thanks again, and closes a picture in case you don't know who I am. I've been carrying this letter around since 1998, and you know what? I didn't know the end of the story. This was so not like me. And on the day before Labor Day, and Labor Day is coming up on Monday in the United States, so this Sunday, pretty crazy, will be 3 years to that date, I decided to Google Raphael Jacopo. And what I found was nothing less than miraculous. I found that Raphael Jacopo had been the first Latino to be elected to the Cedar Rapids Board of Education, beating the incumbent. So you know what I did? I picked up the phone and called him. I mean, you call somebody after 20 years, you know they're going to remember you, right? So I picked up the phone, I called him, I left the message, and I immediately felt like a stalker. So I decided I'm going to photocopy the letter and the picture, which is exactly what I have right here. And there's the picture of the kid. You can tell that's him just 20 years later. So I photocopied the letter, I scanned it, I faxed it out to them, sent them an email, nothing. On a Wednesday, I got done speaking at Dakota State University. My phone rang, I picked up the phone, and all I could tell you was a feeling of panic when I saw Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I picked up, I said, hello? And he says, Dr. Goodman? I couldn't speak. Can you believe that? I couldn't say a word. And he said, it's Raphael. I said, Raphael, I talk about you all the time. Do you remember me? And he said, Dr. Rick, he said, I think about you all the time. He said, in fact, there's a lot of things that we do here at the Board of Education by teaching our kids goals because of the lesson you taught me. And then they came to my table. And then I had to leave. And I haven't been able to connect with him again. But the one thing I know is that some of you right now are just like me. Some of you may have gotten a letter from somebody in your life telling what a difference that you made in their lives. And some of you have a letter that has not been mailed yet. See, but the reality is, you don't get paid for finding problems because anybody can do it. You get paid for providing solutions. See, because what I found out is that there's patterns on the planet, that things happen for a reason, that success leaves clues, that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's already been invented. All you have to do is improve it a little bit. How can I apply this? See, you have to start asking your brain how questions. If you ask your brain a why question, you're going to get an answer you don't like. Oh, why does this always happen to me? Because you're a dummy. That's why it always happens to you. You know, why can I never lose weight? Well, because you're shoving a lot of food in your penis. You know, you're not moving your body. Because it gives you the answer. So you want to start asking your giant computer better questions. Because it's going to give you better answers. How many of you woke up in the morning and said, you know what, I'm going to say this, she's going to say this, I'm going to say this, he's going to say this, I'm going to say this, and you got there and nothing happened. Anybody ever have that happen to you? What a waste of a day. They were living rent-free in their heads. See, some people right now are living rent-free in your heads. Those people said you can never do something, you can never accomplish this, you're never going to be able to do that. And you either have one of two choices. You're either like me and you're a rebel, and you just shove it right where it belongs, where the sun doesn't shine, you're going to make it happen, or you make it your self-fulfilling prophecy and say maybe they're right. See, but reality is they're just giving you their own self-fulfilling prophecy. They're just projecting how they feel 99% of the time. That doesn't mean that has to be a reality. People want three things. They want love, appreciation, respect. They want like the food they eat, the water they drink, and the air they breathe. That's what they want. If you give them those things, they'll stay. They want encouragement. They're not leaving for another $1.25 an hour if they like it, but they will leave if they don't like the place and you offer them more money. So how do you keep your people? How do you engage your people? You've got to change your culture. You've got to be that visionary and be a transformational leader. And that's what it's all about. Transformational leadership. It's what I've been writing about for the last few years. Because you can't be a solutions-oriented leader until you're a transformational leader. Well, I was in Michigan a few months ago, and I spoke at this facilities, these rehab facilities. And they owned about 10 facilities, and the guy called me up and said, would you come in and speak to my whole staff? We're bringing them in for a weekend. They're all off facilities, but I wanted to go around and see what they did. Well, I spent about 4 hours traveling to 5 different facilities around Michigan. And on this day, it was popcorn day. They had a popcorn machine, only on Thursdays, in every single one of their offices. I thought this was the dumbest thing that I've ever heard of. Until they told me that people come in and keep their appointments just to get the popcorn. That's called retention, people. If you're a doctor like me, the biggest issue you have is people following through. Because if they don't follow through, they say, you're a correct doctor. They don't say they missed their appointments, they didn't do their stuff, because most people don't accept responsibility. But a little thing like that brought people in on a consistent basis. So you got to ask yourself, what could you do? How can I apply this in my facility? How are you going to be a transformational leader? Well, the first thing you've got to do is you've got to make a commitment. Okay? And the key to a commitment is something that you make long after the original motion has left. And you're still doing it. You're still focusing on it. Well, transformational leaders, what they do, a true transformational leader, is someone who is going to give people a vision. They stimulate and inspire their followers to achieve extraordinary results. That's what a transformational leader does. They're always moving people forward. They're always helping people reach their true leadership capacity. So what do we have to do as leaders? We've got to put the time and effort into them, because the more time and effort you put into training, the longer people stay with you. Same thing is, the longer you take in the hiring process, the longer people stay with you. So your hiring process is directly proportional to the time and effort you put in it. If you think about it this way, if they're looking for a president at a university, they do a 6-month to a year look. Do you think you're going to find the perfect person that just walked in your office off of an ad? Or the person that breathes in the mirror and fogs it up, and you're like, that's us. We got that person. You've got to be willing to not have someone in your office. That's when you attract the best people. Think about it, it's like dating. If you're desperate to meet somebody, the biggest losers show up at your front door. And when you're finally I'm good, all of a sudden the perfect person just shows up. That's the way it happens. It's the same thing. Once you know what do I want in that individual, what do I want? What's that perfect person that's going to fit the culture of our facility? Because I know there's going to be times when things are going to come up against you. There's going to be times when you're going to sit there and say, why me? And I bet you're going to get the worst answers of your life. But if there's times when you get in front of something and you say, I can, I must, I will, it will completely change your attitude. So I'd like you to say with me, I can, I must, I will. That's not good. Can we do this again? I can, I must, I will. Getting a little closer, all right? Let's give it, let's rock this building, let's make chandeliers shake. I can, must, I will. Beautiful, sit down, give yourself a round of applause. See, it's really all about your attitude. I went through 200 front desk people in my first 2 years of practice. You think you're having attention? Collaboration is the hallmark of everything we do. So you've got to be collaborating with your team. If you want to retain people and you are going to be the boss, people are going to leave. Who wants to deal with the boss? Everybody wants to play follow the leader. Don't you remember that game? Nobody said follow the boss. That wasn't a game. But follow the leader. So if you become that leader, people are going to want to follow you. It takes time. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to stop putting out fires and start thinking in solutions. What is it that only I can do? Or what are the things that we can farm out? Maybe it's marketing, maybe it's social media. Come on up here. Let's go. Give a round of applause. Let's go. Let's go. Are all getting in trouble. Cheating now. I don't tell anybody what to do. Come on up here. Come on up here. So here's what we're going to do. This here is what we call an energy stick. Okay? And the energy stick measures your energy. See, every single one of you has 3 volts in each finger. All right, so you're on here, right? And then we just, when you get facing it, turn around here. Give it a little turn around. And we just go like this. And we go like this. And I grab this like this. And we go like this. And we go just like this. All of a sudden, this sucker is going to light up big time. Okay? Because it's like a step-up battery. So it's conducting all the energy that we have right here between all of us. Now, if I just drop our hand, it all stops. And the connection stops. It's not something, a trick, where I just it'll think this and boom, his hand went down. It's not a trick. This is how your body is wired. This is how you can come up with. How many of you have had that situation? You're thinking about somebody. Maybe it's your mom, grandma, your best friend, your Aunt Tilly, whoever it is, and all of a sudden the phone rings, it's them. Anybody? Yours must be burning. Yours must be ringing. You're always sending out these signals. It's called the ether. So out in the ether, that's where all the radio waves goes. That's where Paul McCartney says, oh, the song just pops into my head. All this stuff was out there. It's all tractable. It's what happens. But if you're not in that right frame of mind, you don't have that right attitude, you can't attract that into your life. It will never happen for you. You'll do it over and over and over again and keep hitting walls. Okay? Great job. Give these people a round of applause. Business is business. It's not personal. Learn that. Business is business. It's not personal. At the end of the day, I like everybody, but I still have a job to get done, and who am I going to feed? Charity begins at home, people. See, because you have the ability to do anything that you want, if you start to control your business and treat it like a business, if you start to control your mind and understand that your mind can control you, can make you or break you, can attract people to your business or repel people in a second, it can give you strength or take the strength away from you. But it's all between those ears.
See, how many of you out there are great at finding problems? Anybody? Raise your hand. Great at finding problems. See, my kids could do that too, but let me ask you this real question, because I know I'm here with people that have a heart that's as big as this. See, because your heart has got to be this big to be the sheriff, doesn't it? Right? So how many of you here deal with difficult people every day? Raise your hands. How many of you are difficult people? Keep your hands up. All right, I knew there was a few of you out there. Well, today we're going to have to learn how to engage more effectively, and more real with people, because people are more transparent. People want that engagement. They want that connection. So we've got to learn how to connect and engage at a different level. But I did just get back from Tokyo. I was spending a little time there. I spoke with the IBPSA in Palm Springs, and then I got to go to Tokyo and speak to the Army. And I was speaking to the Army, and I was talking to them about the crab mentality versus the bamboo. Now, the crab mentality, a lot of people in this world have that mentality. And if you know anything about crabs, when crabs are caught, they put all the food in the bottom of a trap, and the crabs go into the trap. Well, when all the food has been eaten, the crabs try to crawl out of that trap. Well, there's a lot of crabs that don't like to see those other crabs get ahead and get out of the trap, so they start to grab onto that crab, and they drag that crab down. They will not only just drag each crab down, they will eat those crabs until they eat all themselves alive if you let that happen. There's a lot of people out there like that also. We've got to become transformational. Transformational leaders. Transformational leaders are people that have a vision, and then they make sure that they give their team the skills, the opportunities, the tools that they need to accomplish that vision. That's one of the roles of HR. As you heard Susan say, HR isn't just about compliance anymore. We're not just about keeping people within the rules. We're about growing people. We're about making a difference. See, the key to a leader, a solutions-oriented leader, is they're not looking to develop followers. They're looking to develop other leaders. So the question is, are you looking to develop other leaders? A friend of mine came to me and said, you know, you lost a couple of $1 million. You should have done this deal that I told you about. I said, what are you talking about? I said, remember I told you about that deal and you said, nah, it's not going to work? This guy made a couple of $1 million. He said, you need to learn the words, what if? See, what if brings you into possibility thinking. What if makes your mind think, man, what if this works? What if everybody gets along? What if we can hire the perfect people for our team? See, because if you're not thinking in those terms, you're not going to track that, because that's how your brain works. We're going to talk a lot about your brain today. And the one thing that each and every one of these leaders did is they understood the word of commitment. What is it that is a commitment? By making a commitment, what is that? Now, I know a lot of us have made those commitments. Usually it's on January 1st, and we break them on January 2nd or 3rd. See, but what a true commitment is, it's a commitment is doing the thing you said you were going to do long after that happy, fun mood has worn off. It's putting that hard hat on and just dusting yourself off and making it happen. It's going to work every day and doing the things that people don't see you're doing. My daughter always says, it's like, Dad, people don't know the backstory. They don't know really what goes on behind the scenes. See, a lot of people don't understand what you do every single day. The time that you guys have to put in. The overtime that you have to put in just to keep things moving along the right way. That is what a commitment is. How can I apply this? How can I apply this? See, when you start asking yourself the right questions, your brain is going to give you the right answers. So how can you apply this? When you hear some of the stories that I'll share with you, I want you to ask the question, how can I apply this? Because it may not make sense to you. But I'm going to show you how I utilized it to transform a team in Argentina that we just did a deal with Microsoft and Amazon to bring the cloud to Latin America. And when I went to work with the team, the first thing they said was, you don't understand the culture. You don't understand the culture. People would show up at 10 and leave at 4. I said, I don't care about the culture of the country. I care about the culture of the company. We get to create our own culture. We get to change it. We get to make things different. It's really up to you. It's all about a choice. And the cool part is, HR plays a major role in controlling the environment and culture of any organization and making sure that culture is moving forward, making sure people are all on the same page. So the question I'm going to ask you today and for the rest of the conference, as you go around, I want you to ask, how can I apply this? John gave you 5 goals that you should have on engaging, meeting more people. And it's true. A lot of people just sit with the same people, and that's great. You come to this conference so you can see your friends, so you can see the people that you met last conference. And that's what keeps people coming back. But you know what keeps people moving forward? Other people's experiences. Because there's someone in this room that is failing at something, and there's someone right over here that is succeeding at it, and all you got to do is connect and do the same thing. See, the wheel has been invented. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's been invented. It's a pretty good thing. Works really well. But now we have flat tires that are flat run tires. We have tires that operate in extreme cold and extreme heat. The basic premises work. We just need to improve it a little bit. So that's what we're going to be looking for over this next few days. Small incremental improvements. If you improve 1% a day in 365 days, you will be 365% better. Who in this room would not give me all of their money right now if I could give you a 365% return on your investment in 1 year? Everybody would be throwing the money right up here. Well, guess what? You get to do this. You get to do this every single day on yourself. People ask me sometimes also, Rick, you're always up. You're always motivated. You know, it seems like nothing bad happens to you. Bad stuff happens to me all the time. All the time. I'm wearing a tie just because bad stuff happens. It's my breast cancer tie because my wife, Jacqueline, passed away 7 years ago from it. After 8 out of 10 years, we were married from that. So bad things happen. The difference is you've got to give yourself permission to feel bad. I know I'm saying that. Sounds crazy, right? Give yourselves permission to feel bad, but the only difference is I feel bad for an hour. I feel horrible for an hour. I give myself the biggest pity party on the planet for an hour, and then I dust myself off and move forward. Why? What is the other choice? What's the other choice? Dust it off, move forward. Bad stuff happens all the time. The difference is you learn how to roll with it. You learn how to move forward. And that's the honor to the people that didn't move forward. That's what we can pay them honor, is by moving forward and helping others. I call it MFTP, Mother, Father, Teacher, Preacher. These are the people who said children should be seen and not heard, don't speak until spoken to, rich people are thieves, all the stuff that you heard that's not true. See, but that's our references. So we've got to change those references. When I have someone that does something wrong, I get their blinders on right away. Why does a horse wear blinders when they're running in a race? To keep focused on the finish line. I want to keep them focused on the finish line. So I'll say, I don't care what happened. What are we going to do to fix it and prevent it from happening again? I'm big on preemptive strikes. I can't play the blame game. I can't saw sawdust. I can't unring the bell. I can't turn back time. But what I can do is fix things and prevent them from happening again. But you want to focus on the solutions. You want to focus on becoming a solutions-oriented leader. Well, it didn't always start for me like that. See, because this is the father of transactional leadership. My dad, Norman Goodman. Way before Norman Schwarzkopf was around, this was my father. He would tell you all the stuff that you wanted to hear. You'll never go to college. All you'll do is chase skirts and play hockey. All right, so I played hockey at Kent State University, and I got a scholarship. But it was always negative, negative, negative. Well, if you're learning from negative, negative is going to come out because that's your MFTP, that's your references. Well, I was traveling around the country playing ice hockey, 12 years old. I wanted to be normal. I wanted to go to parties with my friends and stuff, and that wasn't happening for me. Well, one day I was laying in my bed, and I was supposed to go on a long tour around the country, and my father said, you've got a game to play. And I said, I don't want to play anymore. I want to be like my friends. I want to go out. I want to go to the parties and stuff. And he said, you're not going. You're going to like it. You're going to do it. If you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will. Well, at 12 years old, you can't really understand logic like that. And then he told me a story. See, my dad, when he was 16 years old, was a world-class baseball championship player. He was on the championship team in New York City. And he had a game over the weekend, and my grandparents said, you're not going to the game. You're coming up to the mountains with us. Well, he was frustrated about that. He went up to the mountains. When he came back on the weekend, on a Sunday morning, he woke up, and he could not get out of bed. He had polio. The polio had hit him, hit his legs, went down his legs. He couldn't move. He couldn't walk. Many of his friends passed because they got the polio that went up the spine, and they were in iron lungs, and they just passed away. Well, 2 days after my dad got polio, they came out with the vaccine. So if you might imagine the frustration that he was living his sports life through me. And he sat there and said, if you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will. So if you ask my children, what do Goodmans not do? They'll say, quit. It's the first thing they always say. If they ask them, does their dad have another motto? They'll say, yeah, he's wasted more money in worse places. We can't change that motto. We've been working on it for years. But they just know that I don't quit, and I instill that in everybody that I work with, that we don't quit, we don't give up, and we don't know the word can't. See, but my transformational journey didn't start like that. I went through over 200 front desk assistants in my first 2 years in practice. People would come in to me and say, you must be tough to work for, or who's the new front desk flavor of the month? That's what they would say. Now, I didn't think it was them. I didn't think it was me. I thought it was them. I started to write this book. And the book was My Team Sucked. 10 rules that turned them into rock stars. But here's the reality. I was the one who sucked. I was the one who couldn't communicate. I was the one who was losing people. You don't go through 200 people in your first 2 years by being an effective communicator. There's got to be something wrong. I think it was when Bobby slammed the door and said, if you ever speak to me like this again, I'm out of here. I swear on my children's life today, I don't know what the heck she was talking about, but she must have been right. So I started to travel around, and I started to ask doctors and physicians and assistants. I want to know, why do they keep their staffs forever? Why do they keep their staffs, and next thing you know, the staff is willing their children to work with that physician also, and they're staying there for 30 years. And what I found out was that there's no such thing as a bad student, only bad teacher. Teachers say and student do. For my favorite philosopher, Mr. Miyagi. And the first step is self-analysis. Are you the problem or the solution? See, most of the times we're going to look and find out we're the problem. We are key performance indicator number one, ground zero, root cause. That's us. It's us. Look in the mirror every day. You know where it lies. And you know, here's the cool part. You can make that change. You can make that difference. See, I found out also, employees don't quit the job, they quit the boss. And there's a big difference between a boss and a leader. See, nobody likes working for a boss, but everybody loves to play follow the leader, right? That many times we're putting out fires. We're so busy putting out fires that we're not thinking in solutions. We're operating out of crisis most of the time. And when we're operating out of crisis, we can't see forward. She never told me her name. I'm the secret caller. So finally, I called one day, and she answered the phone, and I said, what's your name? She said, Cynthia. I said, that's a beautiful name. I said, why don't you use your name? She said, well, I'm just a receptionist. I said, you're just a receptionist? You are the most important person in the company. You're the first person that every single person hears who calls that company. If you don't answer the phone right, you can mess it up for everybody else. Have you ever gotten a phone call from the irate phone caller? They don't say, irate caller on line 1, please pick up, right? They're in your face. But guess what? If you got that irate caller, you get to disarm them. If you said, hi, this is Cynthia speaking, how can I help you? Or it's a great day here at OSI, how can I help you? People are going to be disrupted. You're going to shock their brain. They cannot know what to say. They go, great day, well, let me get myself together here. How could you be mad at that person? Now, Cynthia gets to be the helper. She gets to be the heads up for that salesperson or the vice president, say, hey, Mary Jones is on the phone. I think she's a little bit upset. Now that person's ready. They're not getting slammed right away either. So that position is so important. But you know what? Nobody told her it was important. And I asked Cynthia, who is in charge of you? She gave me 4 people's names. I said, you got 4 bosses? They didn't even have an organizational chart. They didn't know who could talk to who. So I started from ground zero because it all starts with communication. There was a guy running in the 100-yard dash in the Montreal Olympics. He was winning the race. He turned around for 1 second, and a guy passed him by 1/1000th of a second. When he was interviewed later on, they said, what happened? He said, I took my eye off the finish line. How many of you are taking your eye off the finish line when crisis happens? Or when someone key leaves your department and they're gone and you think you could never replace that person? But you probably said that before that person arrived. So what are we saying there? How are we looking forward? What we need to do is not dwell on the past and start focusing on the future. You know, when you're driving your car, that front window is a lot bigger and wider than that rear view window. And it's a lot bigger and wider for a reason, because you got to see where you're going. You're not driving backwards. But it's about your attitude and your energy that makes all the difference in the world. Your attitude is everything. There was a guy who wrote a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. His name was Maxwell Maltz. And Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon in New York City. He had a woman come into his office, and she was magnificent looking, but she had a little crook in her nose, and she thought she was ugly. Well, they went to this book of noses, and they chose a new nose, and they picked out the nose, and they did the surgery, and she came out, she was magnificent. And she sued him for malpractice because every time she looked in the mirror, she saw this ugly person. Well, it went before the judge and jury. They looked at the before and after pictures, and they threw it out of the window because they said she's absolutely magnificent. But the mind didn't know the difference between something actually happening and something imagined vividly in great detail. It's going to make you right. If you don't believe this, how many of you are in a rush to leave at one point today? How many red lights you think you're going to hit? Or have you ever woken up and said it's going to be one of those days? Or maybe you had that mom or grandma that said bad things happen in threes. Anybody have that mom or grandma like me? Right? And all of a sudden, 1, 2, 3, they keep coming, 4, 5, they keep coming. You go, see, I was right. I knew it was going to be one of those days, right? Here's my question. What'd you ever get for being right? I've been right a lot. I haven't gotten anything yet. So if you got something, let me in on this because I want to get that stuff too. Because your brain's going to make you right if you don't believe this. How many of you bought a new car recently or in the past? Raise your hands. Guarantee you everybody in this state was driving the same car you were. There were hundreds of them on the road because your brain was going on search to make you right. Say, hey, that guy or gal's one smart cookie. Great minds think alike. I made the right decision. Because your mind thinks like that. It's kind of like what you say to yourself. See, if some of you spoke to yourselves, some of you spoke to your friends like you spoke to yourself, you wouldn't have a friend in the world. You say bad things to yourself. I'm so stupid. I'm such a dummy. I can't believe I did this. And you know what your brain goes? You're right, you're right, you're right. Makes you right every single time. Every day I wake up, I say the same exact thing. I say I'm a healthy, vital, active, happy, and successful human being. I affirm today that all tissues and organs in my body are functioning perfectly, and that is the way it's supposed to be. I am more relaxed than ever before because I choose peaceful, loving thoughts and release my fears, worries, and anxieties. Tension is gone because I'm creating an atmosphere of ease and confidence. My mind is uncluttered because I've set specific goals and planned action steps for their accomplishment. I feel better now. Nature used the food that I eat, the air that I breathe, the water that I drink, and the rest that I get to rebuild, repair, and revitalize me for the future. Radiant energy flows through me. I also affirm today that money is plentiful in an abundant supply, and this money flows freely and constantly into my life as I render loving service to all mankind. What do you say? Oh my gosh, the line is so long, I can't find the coffee. I was even in the back. My friend Jacqueline, where's my friend Jacqueline? You got some amazing people here, not you, but my friend Jacqueline in the back. I'm standing there, and she said to me, you're going to have to sit down because you can't stand at this conference. I was just standing, just mind my own business. I said, I'm going to stand in a little while. I said, you see Sue up there? I'm going to stand where she's standing. I love the name now, Jacqueline. That was my wife's name, so it was perfect. She was in. I said, redhead in, Jacqueline, same name. You're my buddy. Thank you. Thank you. Because we all have got to stay focused and keep our blinders. And look at this. We got the total focus. Because your attitude makes the difference. So, John, come on up here a second. I want to show you something. Because John's a pretty big guy. I couldn't find Greg. Where's Greg? Is he around here, Greg? I think he skipped down on me. Told him I was going to bring him up here last night. Come on, John. Hurry up. Come on. I'm working. Let's go. How you doing, John? He's doing well. He was very nervous about introducing me. I said, it's video, until the video messed up, Steve. It's okay. Anyhow, so John over here works with 4,000 people, huh? Little under 4,000 people. Can you give him a round of applause? 4,000? Oh, my gosh. Well, and John's a pretty strong guy. So I know that your mind affects your body. And I know that if John is up here, he's a pretty strong guy. I feel these arms really strong, man. You must lift weights and stuff, huh? So what I'd like you to do is hold your arm out. There you go. Cooperate. And I'm going to push down on your arm. I want you to resist me as hard as you can. Resist. Oh, my gosh. This guy's I'm pushing pretty hard, right? All right, I am. So he agrees. I am. Okay. But here's the deal, John. You work in an environment, 4,000 people, mixed with union and regular people just like me, right?
Absolutely.
I just got a phone call. You got a problem. Over 200 people just walked out on the job as a union walkout. They're having big problems, and you're here. And you don't even have your phone ringing. Hold your arm out here. Hold it strong. Right? There we go. Okay, I'm only kidding. You can hold it out. They're all there. They came back to you. They came back. I promise. Oh, there you go. See, when I tell him that in his mind, he starts thinking these thoughts, it goes right through your body. So if you start your day and you have a fight with that spouse, significant other, and you walk in and they say, check your brain at the door, guess what? That brain goes with you everywhere. You can't change your thoughts, but your thoughts become your reality. And when you're in this mode, when you're thinking bad things, you are non-functional. Has anybody had any criers? Okay? They're gone for a good 2.5 hours. Send them home. Let them come back the next day because they're mentally gone. They can't function at a high level. So your job is to keep people focused, to keep people up and on, to keep them in that spirit, because even if you're not feeling it, it doesn't make a difference. My mother could be yelling at each and every one of us. Lori, Ricky, John, the phone ring. Hello. Anybody have that? She was on stage. So when you're working, the moment you go through that door, you're on stage. The moment you pick up that phone, you're on stage, because people don't care that the dog ate the cat. They don't care that something's bad. All they care about is themselves. How are you going to serve me? And you can't serve others if you're not 100%. You're awesome. So I'm going to give you the solutions-oriented leader. Only went to number 1 on Amazon April 16th. It was pretty good. There you go. Thank you, John. At 6 o'clock at night, the Rams would break. They would come to my office, and I would go pick up my son at about 4:30. My son was 5 years old at the time, so I thought it'd be pretty cool if my dad did this. So I said, sure, I'll be the doctor for them, and then got the St. Louis ambush, not realizing how bad the Rams were really going to be. Well, we got this guy named Trent Green. Trent Green was supposed to take us to the promised land. He's going to win us the Super Bowl. Everybody's excited. And then Trent Green went down in the 3rd preseason game with a season-ending knee injury, and my players walked through the office that day, but especially Mike Jones came into my office. My son was standing right there, and I closed the door, and he said, Doc, we're done. We're going to have another losing season. We got no quarterback. We got nothing going on. This is it. Well, I'm from New York, and I don't know if you could tell, but you could take a New Yorker out of New York. You can't take the New York out of the New Yorker, and I have about this much patience and like less than that as a filter. Well, with my son sitting there and a player going negative on me, I looked right at him and said, let me tell you something, Mike. I said, unless you could be positive in this office, I cannot treat you anymore. I said, we have real patients here, like people that really need help, and this is an area of positivity. If you can't, then you must. If you must, then you will. He looked at me like I was nuts. I said, I can, I must, I will. And I said, I'll be back in 5 minutes. You let me know whether you still want to remain a patient in my office. My son looked right at me like I was completely nuts. He was this tall, Mike was this tall, and I'm this. He said, Dad, how could you speak to him like that? He's a giant. He can crush you. I said, you know something, Alex? People are people. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. I treat people and I work with people to get them well. Mike plays football. That's his job. We're both the same. I can, I must, I will. And I drilled this into his mind. I'd like you to all do something with me right now, because you know what? It's early. I want to get the blood going. So everybody please stand up with me. Let's go. Stand up. There we go. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to repeat after me, because there's going to be times when you don't think you can do things. There's going to be times when you're going to be facing these giants, and your job is to crush them. Your job is to control yourself and your mind to focus forward. So I'd like you to repeat after me. I can. I must. I will. That's fair. Come on. You guys won on Monday. Are you still hungover from it? Let's go. I can. I must. I will. A little better. One more time. Give it to me. I can. Must. I will. All right. Give yourselves a round of applause. Awesome. Have a seat. It's called Jiminy Cricket. Anybody have a Jiminy Cricket? You know, that's when you changed your multiple choice test from the right answer to the wrong answer. All right, we've all been there. It's called your gut. I say to my staff all the time, what does your gut say? I surround myself with 10 absolutely amazing ladies because they're smarter than I am. And I say to them, what does your gut say? And they'll tell me, and I go with the gut because it never lies to you. That sixth sense always is true. See, your words are powerful. You never know when you're going to say something to someone that's going to make a massive difference in their life. And you know what? So many of you here said, I am never going to speak like my parents. And now you say something and it's your mom and dad coming out of your mouth. But your words are so powerful. The control that you have with your words and engaging with people on your team and engaging with people at your companies can make all the difference in the world. Now, there's 3 keys to creating a solutions-oriented organization. And the 3 keys are simplicity, speed, and efficiency. See, because you're going to have to transform your thinking. You've got to optimize your assets. Your assets are every single person in this room. It's the information in your head. It's the people you know, your families. And you've got to increase your connectivity. You've got to increase the speed at which you connect with others, and you've got to increase the speed at which you do business. That's the key, is keeping things simple. Now, sometimes I've also found out that organizations have not fully explained to their people what they're all about or what they do. So I am the guy who speaks in, I call 3rd grade, 2nd semester level, so my college professors understand what I'm talking about. Because people would come into a doctor's office and they'd impress them with their vast knowledge, and people would walk out and have no clue what was wrong with them. So I keep things simple. So the simplicity in the business model is the what, who, and how business model. What is it that you do? What do you do? Who is your target market? Who do you serve? And it's not everybody. When I hear that, I know a company is going to fail because they're not honed in. And how do we get the what to the who? How do we get what we do to our target market? It's as simple as that. If we can explain to people this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is who we do it for, they're set. So many times I've been in an elevator, they call it an elevator speech, and they'll say, okay, what does this person do? And you're not quite sure what they even do, and they're not quite sure what they do either. So we want to explain it out to them and get it forward. That's a successful business model. But more importantly, people do business with people who they like, who are like them. You will buy a product from a friend of yours, even if it costs a couple dollars more than going to the local discount place. Because that's what we do. So you've got to engage people and become their friends and find out something about them. And it's all about connection and communication. Now, the golden rule of communication would say, do unto others as others do unto you. How many of you believe in the golden rule? Raise your hands. Stupid rule. Would you treat all your children, all your employees the same exact way? Some need a kick in the pants, others say, get out of my way, let me do my job. I got Goodman's rule. Do unto others as they need to be done unto. Everybody's different. So I get to hang out with Christy Brinkley and sit behind the judge's desk. Not too bad. My daughter called my son and said, stay in the green room. Dad's going crazy on Facebook. I was. Will you risk a yes? Will you risk a yes? See, some people are afraid to do things. And fear stands for false evidence appearing real. They don't want to make the call. They don't want to do the other thing because they don't want to get rejected. I don't look at it as rejection. I look at risking a yes. I'm risking someone saying yes and agreeing with me. And here's the deal. If you don't ASK, you won't GET. You got a 50-50 shot, right? What's the worst thing that can happen? Someone says no, you are in the same spot you were 30 seconds before. They say yes, you went to the next level. See, Doug has the ability to confront. It's as simple as that. He's willing to ask. Your ability to confront is directly proportional to your ability to be successful. The higher level of confront you have, the more successful you'll be. I know every one of you has been in a position once where you said, I'm not going to ask them. They're never going to say yes. There's no way they're going to do it. And they did. And you kicked yourself and beat yourself up because you couldn't believe they said yes. Why didn't I ask them before? This was so dumb. I did this before. What's the worst thing that can happen? You're right there. Well, he also believes in something else, and it's called the morning huddle. And I love the morning huddle, see, because a lot of the people you're working with today that are working, you know what they think you're doing? They think you're partying. You're having a great time. The reality is you're here to learn. You're here to grow. You're building yourselves up. But they don't see that. So in the morning huddle, it happens Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Some companies just on a Monday and a Friday. But in that morning huddle, it's 15 minutes. And we get together, and a team leader gets together and says, here's what I'm going to be working on this week. What are you working on? What do you need help with? Is there anything that I can do for you? And then we break, just like Aaron Rodgers getting out of the huddle. Then on Wednesday, here's what I got done. Here's what I'm working on. You need anything from me? It makes the leader available and visible, even when you're not there. And on Friday, hey, what did we get accomplished? What did we do? Do you need any help? This is what we got going on next week. It's not a meeting. In Argentina, Juan called me up and said, Rick, we can't do this huddle. It's an hour. I said, make it a coffee huddle. When the coffee's done, the meeting's done. Now we limit it to 15 minutes because that's where it should go. But you've got to connect. How are you connecting and engaging with people? I know people don't like meetings, but if you make them effective, if there's an outcome, they'll be all in. It's when the meetings are a complete waste of time that nobody wants to be there. So restructure them. Make mini huddles so you can personally connect with people. And then use check back. See, because we already discussed a little that some of us are still in that 15-year-old mindset. If you tell me what to do, I'll say, you're not my mother. You're not going to tell me what to do. I'll show you. I remember Jackie gave me one of the best words and told me the best things because she knew I couldn't be told what to do. So she would say, can I make a recommendation? I go, okay, go ahead. I'm going to say no to a recommendation? So sometimes you got to know how to speak to people. Well, check back is the best delegation tool you could ever have. It's not check up. See, I know if I'm checking up on you, you're going to think that I don't think you can do the job. Instead, it's check back. So I may give you a task and I'll say, when can I check back with you? Now I get out of your way. I was the type of guy who would give you 10 things to do, go back up in my office for 2 seconds, come back up and give you another 10 things to do. I drive you nuts. And there's something called the zone of the flow. You've all been there. When you're in the zone of the flow and someone interrupts you, you can't get back to that mental spot again. So when I'm doing check back, I'm now putting the ball in their court. I'm saying, hey, when can I check back with you, John? Now he says you could check back in a couple hours. I get out of his way. Here's the key to check back. You must check back. Each and every one of you has had an experience where someone said, I want you to drop everything you're working on right now. You did, and they didn't use what you did for them a week, a month, or a year, ever. And you said to yourself, the next time, I'm not doing it. So you've got to check back and follow up. It is a great delegation tool. It all started with a symbolic focus. Every great team has a symbolic focus. Whether it's the Lombardi Trophy or another trophy, or it's your awards, or at Lennox International, they have the Whatever It Takes award, whatever it is, but you have to have some sort of symbol. I set up a symbol for them. It was a newsletter. He said, that's ridiculous. It's a total waste of time. I know something about people. They love to see themselves in newspapers. They love to see themselves on TV. And I said, one day it will be a refrigerator score. He said, what's that? I said, you kids ever get a good score? You go bowling and you have a good score, you put it on the refrigerator, right? Or a picture, that's a refrigerator score. He said, never happened. Well, I found out who in the team liked to take pictures, who liked charity. And we delegated to people that like to do this stuff. Because if you like to do it, you're going to be motivated to do it. Make sense? But if you don't know about your team and what they really like, not just what they like at work, but what they like outside of work, you don't know what turns them on. Well, I knew what turned these people on. And all of a sudden, I got a photograph, and what they had a newsletter party. From Argentina, they're sending me pictures. They threw a party. It was a one-page newsletter. That was 3.5 years ago. Now is over 16 pages long. It shows all of their people on the team, the things that they've done, their clients, the awards they've gotten. And then I got a phone call about a month ago, and I got a WhatsApp picture right before I went in to give a speech. And this was the picture. It was from our VP of Sales refrigerator in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And what he have on his refrigerator was the Neutrona connection. And I said, who said this would turn into a refrigerator score? See, because the reality is when we set up some sort of a focus, something that people can rally around, we make it fun, they're going to provide solutions. They're going to be productive. They're going to get involved. You never know how powerful your words are going to be. You never know how your gestures are going to fall upon someone. Somebody in this room made an impact on you, and it is your job as HR professionals to carry that forward and make an impact on others as you do. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great conference. Thank you. Thank you.